people are concerned that Wiseman's going to be bad on defense, and given Clay's injury, the Warriors are in a situation now where they really can't afford for James Wiseman to not know how to play defense in the NBA early on, and it just seems like the only thing that he can really do defensively is stand in front of the basket, drop on pick and rolls, that sort of stuff. If you're asking him to switch onto the perimeter, step up on screens, trap guys, and rotate over to the basket, and while still not letting his guy too open and not fouling, and just all the classic big man things that kind of go unnoticed but are really the things that determine if you can play high minutes in the NBA or not, there's a chance Wiseman's just not going to be able to do those things right away. Most scouts who have been on him like that would say he's got to work on those things. Now, from a physical standpoint, Wiseman has the potential to do those things, but he still has to do it. I mean, I think the recent example of a guy who seemed like he could be awesome defensively, plus he had the physical profile, was Nerlens Noel. And Nerlens is what? A backup 5, basically? Now, another reason for that is Nerlens is not the most gifted offensive player, and Wiseman's got potential there. But even so, for this talk about how Wiseman could grow into being a shooter, grow into being a guy who can do stuff off the dribble, the scouts don't think that he's that right now. I mean, based on what I've read from people who are more in the know than I am, a lot of them think that early on Wiseman should just be more of a run, jump, dunk center, go for offensive rebounds, set screens, that whole spiel. And they have some concerns that Wiseman might not be content with having a smaller offensive role. Now, maybe there's a better chance because he's in Golden State. I think there's a better chance also of him having more success with that sort of thing with the Warriors because, I mean, once Steph Curry starts moving off the ball, we know what happens. Defenses freak out, that sort of thing. Now, they have a little more luxury because Clay's out, there's no KD. Draymond, they're always going to leave open. But you'd think that if you can really get Wiseman involved with Steph, whether it's on the ball or off the ball, setting screens, then he can get going to the basket. That can create some good looks for him. Similar things with the Draymond-Steph pick and roll. I think this is a big question with the Warriors because Clay is not there now. Are they going to run more simple offense with Steph? And if they do, I think that could really help out Wiseman, whether it's him setting the screen or Draymond setting the screen with Wiseman sitting in the dunker spot. But it still comes back to if Wiseman is not at least good defensively right away, there's going to have to be some push and pull where at times Steve Kerr is probably going to want to pull him for Kevon Looney, who is nowhere near the talent that Wiseman is, but he's a better fundamental player. The other options for center are Draymond at small ball 5 and then Marquise Chris. So we'll have to see with all that. Now, to go back to the draft, let's say if the Warriors would not have selected Wiseman, what would have been the best move? I mean, it probably would have just been picking somebody and hoping they could be a good wing for you. I mean, Okoro, he's probably already better defensively than Oubre and Wiggins. Although if they would have drafted Okoro, they probably would not have traded for Oubre. Maybe they would have after hearing about Clay getting hurt. If you want to be super optimistic about Okoro, you could say that he could be another Iguodala, like awesome defensive wing. He's already got some good finishing skills, and he's got some stuff off the dribble. The question with him is the shooting. The Warriors could have gone that route, but especially because Draymond is probably not going to be as effective of a small ball 5 moving forward, it might have made the center position a little more essential for them. Now, to counter that, you could just say, well, just get yourself some $5 million center every season. That's the other thing about selecting Wiseman is he's going to make $8 million as a rookie. So by the end of his contract in 4 years, that's going to be, over $10 million for a starting center? Hopefully a starting center. And that's starting to push territory of it's a little more than teams really want to pay for 5s. Now, the Celtics paid Tristan Thompson $9 million on the mid-level. The Mavericks are paying Dwight Powell and Kleba about $10 million a year. So it's not ridiculous to pay a center that much money. It's just usually that much goes for a guy who's a little more reliable. Definitely not as high of a ceiling as Wiseman, but probably a higher floor just because we've seen them play good defense in the NBA. But you can't forget that Wiseman's going to want probably double those guys' money, maybe a little more, for his extension, which is 5 seasons from now. So we'll have to see there. And it's tough to remember now, but if the Warriors had decided against going with Wiseman and they went with one of these wing players, then they could have traded down and gotten something if another team really wanted the second pick. But I'm sure these conversations happened. And I mean, look, if the Warriors believe that James Wiseman is really good and can be an awesome run, jump, and dunk center on top of grow defensively and have his awareness match his wingspan and his verticality and his speed and all that, and he can improve on his lateral quickness, and he can develop a handle and a passing game and a shooting game and get a little better in the post, then you pick him, of course. But we got to remember, I mean, if all the scouts had the same opinion of this draft, which was there's no consensus, not even number 1 guy, then should we be shocked if the number 2 pick doesn't end up being super great? The other thing, too, when I went back and I looked at some of the mock drafts, or not mock drafts, but big boards of various scouts, some people had Okongwu over Wiseman. And it got to the point where it felt sort of normal for them all to believe that just because I was seeing it so much. Whether I agree or disagree, they know more than I do. I don't think I'm allowed to say that. But it was just like, well, I can see their rationale. Okongwu was supposed to be a way better defensive player than Wiseman right away. And in today's NBA, with the center position, that's crucial, that you can defend in space and sometimes switch and all that stuff. I mean, based on some of the cynical takes that I've seen of Wiseman, I think some people believe he's like Andre Drummond. He'll give you some points, get you a lot of rebounds, but when you're watching him minute to minute, game to game, especially against some of the best bigs in the league, it's like, oh, this guy, he just simply doesn't match up. Now, with all this being said, I do think Wiseman has a decent chance at Rookie of the Year. He's probably going to play around 30 minutes a game. You imagine he's going to get a good amount of points generated for him off of Steph. And between offensive rebounds, fast breaks, and the occasional post-up, and I do think he can draw a decent amount of fouls. I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged, let's say, 16 and 10 this season or something. So we'll see. Basically, it's, will Wiseman be good at all the boring big man stuff? Real quick little announcement. My second channel, which used to be a movie TV channel, I've turned it into a meme channel about NBA things. For example, reacting to Twitter being sad about Kelly Oubre getting engaged. The videos are all really short. They're like a minute at the most. It's just kind of random ideas that pop in my head. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, that's in the description, pinned comment, that whole spiel.